While speaking at a rally in Kingston, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre addressed Donald Trump's auto tariffs, calling them, quote, an unfair attack on our economy.
You know, before I get into the broader context of my remarks tonight, I should address yet another unfair attack on our economy from the U.S. president. In addition to unfair and counterproductive tariffs on our aluminum and steel, now President Trump is going after our auto workers. After, for decades, workers on both sides of the border locked arms to build the greatest auto sector in the world, the president is betraying America's closest friend and attacking our economy, proving once again that Canada must end its era of overdependence and weakness. We must be an economic fortress that can defend itself, that can stand up for its own people, and put Canada first. Conservatives will be there for the auto workers, to keep them working, to keep their jobs, to fight through this mess. We will push hard to put an end to these tariffs and get a quick but fair deal that protects our sovereignty, knocks down all the tariffs, and allows us to rebuild our military so that we can be a true sovereign nation.
Our contributor Wyatt Sharpe unpacked the role that Mr. Trump's announcement has played on Mark Carney and Mr. Poilievre's stance on tariffs.
Yeah, experts have pointed out that while certainly the intent behind some of Donald Trump's tariffs were to protect American jobs, the actual outcome that has resulted from them was certainly less targeted and more damaging than anticipated in a number of instances as well. These, what are really being described as across-the-board tariffs, including the proposed 10 to 20% tariff on all imported goods, raised prices for consumers, but also disrupted supply chains. And while the intent was, at least on Donald Trump's behalf, to do that for Canada, certainly you're seeing it happen in the United States as well, with forecasters projecting the average cost of living for the average American family to go up by about 900 American dollars per year. And, with these disrupted, kind of global supply chains comes the kind of sacrifice of the intended boost that was expected in a lot of domestic production as well. And, I tell you all of this because it's kind of shaping Pierre Poilievre's stance on a lot of these tariffs. And you're not actually seeing that much kind of protest from Mark Carney towards Pierre Poilievre's stance and vice versa, because largely it is the same. Now, there might be some discrepancies with respect to how different some of the retaliatory tariffs they're looking to put in place are, or what they want to put in place retaliatory tariffs on, but Pierre Poilievre proposing really a different approach to trade and tariffs, advocating for what oftentimes can seem like kind of a more measured approach to dealing with these, but also strategically speaking. If you look to Donald Trump, one of the biggest criticisms right now is that he doesn't understand kind of the impact of these tariffs, the fundamental principle of tariffs, that they are in fact placed on the importer, which perhaps sometimes he oftentimes looks at it from the opposite perspective. Pierre Poilievre has said he's not just looking at protecting industries, although that is certainly very important, but also looking to enhance Canada's relations on the geopolitical stage around the world. And Mark Carney is echoing that message by saying that, they're looking to really diversify our trade markets to countries in Europe potentially as well. With that, of course, would come some additional transportation costs, but if it looks at like it can provide more stability essentially towards the Canadian economy, Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney both saying that they think it is something worth looking at. Poilievre's plan really as well, just to conclude with this, kind of suggests really what can ultimately seem like a pivot, right, from Trump's kind of broader, less measured policy towards kind of a more nuanced strategy aiming to avoid some of the pitfalls that oftentimes look as if they're arising from, economic isolation to, looking at things like fostering domestic growth and international cooperation. One thing you're hearing a lot of U.S. economists in particular talk about is that the reason the economy in the U.S. US is likely to hurt from this is because Trump is trying too much to prioritize the domestic production angle on kind of the balancing scale here. And as a result, because he's focusing so much on that, it's really making the issue worse, and it's having the opposite effect as he had initially anticipated. So certainly there are a lot of interesting developments with respect to this. The global economy obviously is going to evolve as well as we move forward. Canada's going to play a big part in that. But again, both Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney, it seems, are actually quite united, or more united than many would anticipate on this front.